Hello, everyone. Being a developing nation with 1.4 billion people, China has consistently been a center of competition for major worldwide aviation producers, particularly Boeing from the United States, owing to its vast market scale. Information indicates that over the last 2 decades, Boeing's yearly earnings in China have touched 10 billion USD. Nevertheless, on April 21st, a Boeing 737 MAX plane, which was finished and prepared for delivery, had to return from China to Boeing's Seattle final assembly facility because of the effects of reciprocal tariffs. Following this, there were speculations that Boeing could be expelled from the Chinese market. The rationale given is that the Chinese government mandated a halt to receiving Boeing planes and suspended the importation of all aviation-related machinery and components from the U.S. Should this report be accurate, Boeing stands to lose as much as 28 billion USD in orders within the upcoming 2 years. In this current video, we shall analyze for you the reasons China rejected Boeing's $28 billion order and whether, in the future, China will genuinely abandon Boeing entirely. If you appreciate our video material, kindly click to subscribe to my YouTube channel, enabling you to get all our newest video updates. Now, let us proceed to today's subject. We observe that inside the first 100 days after Trump assumed office as U.S. president, he started promoting the policy of applying tariffs and frequently threatened other nations with increased tariffs. He initially applied tariffs of approximately 25% on adjacent Canada and Mexico, and subsequently lifted tariffs on essential products like automobiles, semiconductors, steel, and medicines by 25%. However, Trump didn't halt at that point. He further employed the purported reciprocal tariff strategy to elevate tariffs on certain particular products from some nations to a staggering 254%. These actions are seemingly designed to shield domestic industries within the United States. But realistically, they have worsened tensions in the worldwide trade environment. Yet, Trump is clearly not content with the present outcomes. He appears to be attempting to utilize high tariffs as a punitive instrument to compel other nations to the bargaining table by heightening pressure with the menace of escalating tariffs. He is endeavoring to employ economic influence to bolster the United States' negotiating edge. Naturally, as a long-standing strategic rival of the United States, China inherently becomes an initial target in this tariff conflict. From the beginning, 10% tariff in 2018 to the existing 245% tariff, the trade collaboration between the two parties has arrived at a standstill. Afterwards, Beijing also commenced countering the U.S. tariff penalties methodically. In April of this year, China's General Administration of Customs released a notice declaring the enforcement of export limitations on 7 types of medium and heavy rare earth-associated products set to officially commence from the notice's issuance date. Concurrently, China incorporated 16 U.S. organizations into the export control roster. Then, on April 12th, China once more increased tariffs on imported items originating in the United States, from the prior 84% up to 125%. At this specific tariff rate, the competitive ability of U.S. goods within the Chinese market has notably diminished. Should the United States persist in escalating trade actions, China might launch a harsher retaliation. Simultaneously, Certain media outlets reported that, aiming to further counteract the U.S. tariff sanctions, China has directed applicable companies to halt the reception of Boeing aircraft and cease importing associated equipment and components from the United States. This resolution directly impacts Boeing's orders, totaling a value as high as 28 billion USD, positioning this American aviation behemoth as potentially the largest casualty in this tariff clash. So, what precisely occurred behind the scenes? As far back as 2024, Boeing forecasted in its most recent civil aviation market assessment that China would require approximately 830 new civil airplanes over the next 20 years to satisfy the increasing need for air passenger and freight transport. Around 60% of these are intended for fleet size expansion, while the remaining 40% are designated for replacing older planes with new, more fuel-efficient models. The report further indicated that China's internal air travel is projected to expand at an average yearly rate of 5.2% and is poised to shortly become the globe's biggest air passenger market. Following this developmental trajectory, China is anticipated to take delivery of 188 Boeing airplanes solely between 2025 and 2027, calculated on an average sale price of $150 million per plane. The aggregate worth of this order batch approximates 28.2 billion USD. Nevertheless, subsequent to China levying tariffs reaching 125% on American products, the importation expense for Boeing aircraft and associated components has surged to over double the initial cost. For premium manufactured items like Boeing's, priced at hundreds of millions of dollars each, even without China enacting an explicit procurement prohibition, they have nearly forfeited their market attractiveness owing to the steep decline in cost-effectiveness. More gravely, China reacted forcefully merely days after President Trump declared the purported Liberation Day tariff policy on April 2nd. On April 12th, China formally declared a 125% tariff on American goods. This directly resulted in a steep rise in the costs of U.S. manufactured aircraft and components, and might encourage Chinese airlines to halt acceptance of Boeing planes. Naturally, prior to the tariff conflict erupting, Boeing's portion of the Chinese market was consistently quite substantial. Based on data I located, the aggregate count of commercial airplanes operational in China has hit 4,324. Among these, Boeing possesses 7,021 planes, Airbus has 2,228, and there are merely 117 domestically manufactured aircraft. This signifies that Boeing constitutes as much as 42% of China's civil aviation fleet, sufficient evidence that it formerly held a powerful, dominant standing in the Chinese market. Nevertheless, by 2024, Boeing faced a sequence of supply chain emergencies. The gravest among them was an extensive strike enduring over 7 weeks and encompassing more than 30,000 employees, leading to stagnation across multiple production lines and a considerable decline in its delivery capability. This directly influenced Boeing's capacity to meet its contractual obligations punctually and also markedly diminished its competitiveness within the global marketplace. Yet, in reality, the true cause of Boeing's difficult situation extends beyond just the supply chain issue. A succession of aircraft mishaps has also profoundly impacted its sales figures. Back in October 2018, a A Boeing 737 MAX 8 carrying 189 passengers plunged into the Java Sea mere minutes following takeoff from Jakarta, Indonesia, with no survivors. Post-accident, an official from Indonesia's Lion Air disclosed during an interview that a critical new flight control system hadn't been referenced in the Boeing 737 MAX 8's operational handbook, identifying this as a potential element causing the aircraft's abrupt descent. Even more paradoxically, merely one day preceding the incident, the United Pilots Association in the United States openly charged Boeing with intentionally hiding the system's potential hazards. However, Boeing's troubles are not singular events. As far back as March 2019, an Ethiopian Airlines Boeing 737 MAX 8 departed from the capital, Addis Ababa, with 149 passengers and 8 crew members. Shortly thereafter, the aircraft went down in the Bashto region, roughly 45 kilometers from the capital. Despite the search and rescue crew rapidly arriving at the location, there were no survivors among those on board. This mishap bears a strong resemblance to the earlier air disaster involving the identical aircraft type in Indonesia, sending shockwaves through global public perception and severely harming Boeing's standing. Following this accident, China spearheaded the announcement to suspend the Boeing 737 MAX, a suspension lasting a complete 5 years. Subsequently, this particular model was also subjected to grounding or prohibition across the globe. It is significant that the U.S. Federal Aviation Administration only formally conceded in 2023 that the 737 MAX indeed possessed design flaws. Post-accident, Boeing's market valuation diminished by up to $140 billion. Through 2024, Boeing managed to deliver just 348 aircraft over the entire year, which was 34 less than during the most severe phase of the COVID-19 pandemic. In March of this current year, the most recent audit findings revealed by the United States Federal Aviation Administration were even more astounding. 33 out of the 89 audits undertaken by Boeing resulted in failure, marking a failure rate close to 4%. This outcome not only uncovered critical deficiencies in Boeing's quality control, but also intensified external skepticism regarding the safety of its aircraft. Even more concerning is that Spirit Aerosystems, Boeing's primary fuselage provider, also experiences recurrent issues, with over half of its audit projects not passing. This sequence of quality and management difficulties has unquestionably intensified Boeing's credibility crisis within the global market, particularly within the highly competitive aircraft manufacturing sector. Actually, besides acquiring Boeing or Airbus planes, China possesses an alternative option: the domestically manufactured C919. As of 2025, 18 C919 aircraft have been handed over and entered commercial service. Among these operators, China Eastern Airlines holds 10, China Southern Airlines has 3, and Air China possesses 3 as well. The total safe flight duration surpasses 23,000 hours. Over 9,600 commercial journeys have been completed, and the total passenger count transported exceeds 1.27 million. This figure alone sufficiently demonstrates that the C919 is gaining acceptance among an increasing number of travelers and air carriers. Furthermore, it's notable that the C919's adaptability has also garnered significant focus. It possesses the capability for swift conversion into a medical transport plane, and its ample cargo area can house a complete field hospital setup, facilitating prompt deployment during emergency relief or humanitarian operations. Even Vietnam's Marine Corps has expressed considerable interest in the C-9 Huaitine, deeming it superior in efficiency compared to conventional landing craft. The C-9 Huaitine's delivery pace has also exerted considerable pressure on Boeing. Vietnam required merely 3 months from contract signing to aircraft receipt, presenting a stark contrast to the strike action erupting at Boeing's Seattle facility following the adoption of a 4-day workweek by staff. Since the C-999's introduction, airlines in nations like Brunei, Indonesia, and Brazil have commenced procuring this new model too. Currently, the aggregate order count for the C-919 surpasses 1,000. Nevertheless, as it stands, after almost 2 years in commercial service, the actual delivered quantity remains at just 18. This indicates that while the C-999 holds potential for international market entry, its present manufacturing capability struggles to fulfill order demands, preventing it from competing directly with Boeing and Airbus imminently. Nonetheless, based on COMAC's strategy, by the year 2027, the yearly output of the C-9 Huaitine is set to rise to 150 units. By 2028, its localization percentage will surpass 80%. Adhering to this trajectory, within the upcoming 3 to 5 years, the C-999 will possess the capability to contend with Boeing and Airbus, and the market dominance of Boeing and Airbus will unavoidably face additional compression. From my perspective, Trump's tariff conflict on this occasion holds virtually no prospect of success. In truth, following the imposition of tariffs, the everyday existence of the American populace has undergone substantial effects. Presently, a trend of panic purchasing is proliferating throughout the United States. Consumers express concern about subsequent price escalations and are making purchases preemptively. This type of panic buying behavior is prone to upsetting the market equilibrium and potentially triggering a greater disparity between supply and demand. Concurrently, numerous owners of small and medium-sized enterprises in the United States are also experiencing the strain. They typically harbor worries that the tariff regulations will result in a steep rise in the cost of imported components, intermediate goods, and basic materials, thereby compressing their already narrow profit margins. With escalating expenses, it is growing progressively harder for these firms to sustain regular business activities, and a multitude of companies even confront the possibility of shutting down or declaring bankruptcy. To ensure you don't miss our upcoming projects and news information, please be certain to subscribe to our channel and activate notifications. We pledge to keep delivering more thrilling and engaging material to you.